Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a flesh and blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Darick and Logan.
Maybe I should just stick with the dark because I'm in mourning. Maybe I should go full Xavier Woods. Instead of mourning the tag team division, I just need a big crazy hat. Do you ever consider that? I know you're.
With that being said, welcome to episode
196
of Flesh and Pod. My name is Logan. I'm your host, the person who is in darkness because he's not in mourning, because he's too damn lazy to grab the clicker for his light because it slid behind his desk.
No, I'm in mourning. I'm going to do the Xavier Woods thing. I'm going to wear a hat.
'Tis a bit, ergo, commit.
Here, I'll put it backwards just so I
there
can match you.
That's better. That's much better.
God, I look like such a redneck when I do that.
Yes, you do. I don't know how I can pull this off and not look like a redneck, but you for sure do.
Now I look like a 10-year-old boy.
Oh my God, you look like a 10-year-old with a painted on beard. This is disgustingly bad. You should never do this. I don't even know. I didn't know you had that in you. My God. That was something.
No, it's not my
else.
God. It's thank God for the new day.
And Big G. Okay. Anyway, we're not a wrestling podcast. We are a Super Slam podcast. But it's been a week, man. I don't even know where to really. The best place to start is Brian Pillman Jr., Lexus King, plays Flesh and Blood.
So I was waiting for that to come up. I'm glad you actually started there because I was just going to say we've been saying for a long time that Flesh and Blood is wrestling coded, and then we get people who give us feedback like, "Oh, the podcast is so much better when they talk about Flesh and Blood." Well, wrestling is Flesh and Blood. I'm sorry, I hate to break it to you, but the signs have always been there, and of course, now that we know that Lexus King is also playing and that they, put the emphasis on it, it just goes to show you we are moments away at any given moment from getting the crossover. I've been on record saying I don't want like other IPs to cross over, but I will say if they gave them funny names or cheeky whatever and they still did it in the right art style, I would be okay with a set of heroes that was like an homage. Like if you give me like, a Rhea Riptide or something.
Well, Pleiades already looks just like Bailey. So, like Hugger Bailey.
Oh, yeah.
But who stole that look from Macho Man. So, yeah, I mean, you could do that, I guess. Get GCW or whatever to sign off on some shit and go to town. But ostensibly, this is a Flesh and Blood podcast. And we have stuff to talk about, weirdly enough. We'll start with the easy parts of all this. By the way, like, subscribe, do that stuff. It helps. I guess it helps. Somebody said that once. I don't know. I should really start front loading like the important information on, towards the part of the show rather than what I usually do, which is announce stuff way at the back. I'm just bad at shit. That's really what all of this is I'm just bad at shit. But back to the news and notes of the day here. We did have a Battle Hardened Orlando. It was a Living Legend Battle Hardened, which was won by Andrew Wilborn on Ira. So Zephyr Needle Ira takes another one down. Top 8 was more in line with what we usually would see. So 2 Starvo, 2 Chain, a New, an Ira, a Zen, and an Icelander. These all make sense.
Yeah.
No Briar. No Briar makes very little sense.
I just need to say that I adore this Zephyr Needle Ira. And as much as I'm going to like be in character and cry about the Bonds of Agony thing later in the show.
Oh, and you will.
When I was saying before that I think that there's a bunch of cards in Assassin that could potentially be underplayed right now, in my mind, I was very specifically thinking about the dagger archetype that sits within Assassin. Now, this Zephyr Needle Ira, obviously the power of Zephyr Needle should not be like understated. card is insane, and that's why this won a Living Legend event. But even without Zephyr Needle, I do think that several of the cards that work in this Ira list could work in Classic Constructed. Things that jumped out to me. So if you're not familiar, I'll just give you some highlights, right? So there were 6 copies of Upsticks and Run? No,
Yep.
9 copies.
9
copies of Upsticks and Run. Even if you're just talking about like the red one though, in Assassin, it is still a 0 for 4 as long as you're swinging with a dagger. Being able to retrieve stuff that you've done with Flick is kind of insane. The other thing that
KOD.
Yeah.
So
great with KOD, things like that. The other things that jumped out to me, I have always included it off and on as a one of, because I think it's cheeky. But I love that the list was running 3 copies of Knives Out.
yeah,
I think that it's obviously significantly better in a list like this, but again, it's one of those things that is, I think, underrated for a blue block 3. And then where was the other thing? Oh yeah, the dual threat. Obviously,
yeah. Oh yeah, no, dual threat's great.
Not something I think works as well in Assassin, because part of the reason that this works so well in Ira is that it's so cost efficient, right? It's so pitch efficient, but dual threat's just kind of insane. When I was looking through this list, I was like, hell yeah, you get it. I love any deck that's gonna just jam 3 bleed outs and just treat them like 0 for 4 go agains, because of course, you know, they are, but I really like this list. I looked at the list and I was like, okay, it's aggressive. Oh, it's like all in on the dagger package, and then I kind of fell in love. So, bravo.
Yep, it is hyper efficient. No, it was Ira, but it was hyper efficient, and that's really what you're going for in that deck. You're just trying to do the make number go burr, and do it. Instead of like big splash, like single big splash turns, do it over the course of many turns. And turns out that 2 go again into 3 go again into bigger is really good. Or in some cases, 2 go again into 5 go again into 5 go again into 7. Thank you, Dual Threat. Is also pretty good.
Yep.
Who knew?
I also loved the Respect. I love that they ran 3 copies of Gravekeeping. I liked the inclusion of God, what was the other tech card that I saw in there? Well, I mean, there was like a Sensor. That's what it was.
Sensor,
So there was like
yeah.
not Upsticks and Run, Weakest Link or whatever as well. But Sensor's another card that I think is really efficient, especially when you have a ton of game knowledge, right? Like the 1 for 5 is already good. Worst case scenario, it's a block 3. I don't think this list was, let me look. No, wasn't running snaps, but obviously Sensor works with snaps pretty well as well. But the big thing with Sensor is, again, like if you've just got good game knowledge and you know exactly what to name at the right time, it can be one hell of a card. So I really appreciated that the list was very aware of just what makes, I think, Ira good. As you pointed out, it's just super consistent. It's not going to put up like 30 every turn, but it's going to put up a shit ton of pressure all the time.
Well, absolutely.
And this version ran enough relevant on hits between, erase faces, obviously CNCs, all of those traditional like 2 for 6 with good on hits that are amazing with Ira for obvious reasons. So I like it. And the one thing that jumped out to me, and I think I actually might try it, again, not just gonna go out on a whim and say, of course it's a 1-to-1 comparison, because again, Zephyr Needle is a hell of a card, but I could see a situation where a version of this could be very playable in Classic Constructed with Kodachis.
Yeah, it already is. Like, there are definitely people who were big fans of, the ninja archetype in general, who never really found Syndra to be their cup of tea, just because of playstyles or whatever, that have definitely still been playing Ira. And I think that's makes sense. And it's obviously it has to be Kodachi Ira. or Edge of Autumn, which is crazed. But Kodachis, turns out, are very efficient still. And the list, most of the time it seems like those lists are playing more traditional, but sometimes they're just all balls to the walls aggro, too.
Yeah. I mean, the big thing, obviously, Zephyr Needle attacking for one more is super relevant. The other thing is the non-conditional go again, but what jumped out to me was when I looked at the blues, I think there's only like 2 of the blues that weren't already zeros anyway.
Right.
It was, I forget what the other one was. I know it was Ripple Away was one. There was one other one. And so in my mind, I was just like, okay, if you wanted to at least, try a version of this for Classic Constructed, it's not out of the realm to imagine a scenario where you just, swap those out, or maybe just run, one extra blue or something and then give it a go.
Yeah, that's true. I know that I've seen some psychotic shit, like people playing Nasty Surprises, mainly for the Face Purgatory decks, and then also, some of Starvo's discard on hits and being able to, have effects rather than just nothing. So I've seen that too. There's a lot of cute shit that's out there, but, like I said, the only shock in this was the 0 Briar. I still think Briar's really, really good and really well positioned. But I also look at these decks and go, well, yeah, okay. All of these also look like things I would expect. So that might change going forward. But we have a lot more to talk about than just results. And we have Super Slam upcoming, but before that ever hits, we have our first banned and restricted announcement since we... I don't even know how to say that. Since we received any information whatsoever about Super Slam. There we go. And they went a little scorched earth, I think is the best way to put it. I'll give the highlights right off. In Classic Constructed, Bonds of Agony is banned, which is why Charmer's sad.
My daughter did nothing wrong.
Incorrect. Golden Tipple Red and Golden Tipple Yellow are banned. Plume of Evergrowth is banned. The weirdest one, Talk a Big Game, is banned. That card literally has never been played. But apparently, it has some effects with cards in Super Slam. They're still taking preemptive action. And because Florian has been terrible, they gave Germinate back. So let's take a trip through this. Let's start with Bonds.
Yeah, so here's my problem with this one, okay?
Okay, I knew that was coming, so I'm just going to let you cook.
We've got Tipple. The red one's gone, the yellow one's gone, but they get to keep their blue. But I still can't even play my blue Bonds of Agony. It's strictly unfair. And
That's it?
I deserve to be able to play my power blues if they can still play their power blues. That's all I'm saying.
We'll just give you the yellow and reds back.
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
Oh, why not?
Because they don't have theirs. It should mirror. It should be aligned.
So a couple of things that they did point out in the precursor to the after they did the announcement and then the preamble to the discussion on the individual cards is they did make a statement to their philosophy of bans, and in there were that they're not seeing bans as a bad thing, because they do rightfully call out that in the past bans of cards were seen as designers don't know what they're doing, and that was probably unfair. And I think and they talk about this, but to levy future tools to create a new metagame, because that's one of the bullet points that they talk about for reasons to employ bans is freshen up metagames. They will use a liberal usage of bans, which also will come with unbans. So there'll be constant movement to help churn. It's almost like you're using the banned and restricted list as a way to do something akin to a rotation, without having rotation.
It's almost like they're
clever.
using it as a form of gentle parroting.
Kind of.
Because they're like, look, you guys...
Bonds of Agony needs to sit in timeout.
You guys... I was going to say it was more... you guys should know how to handle this, but since the players haven't collectively figured it out, we'll just take it away until they can handle it, until they're more mature.
Bonds is definitely not that. They do spell out the problem with bonds pretty well. And that is bonds creates a use case specifically with Arachne Slip Through the Cracks where it hits the field and you're just kind of fucked.
Yeah.
There's no two ways. You slam a bunch of cards in front of it to cover up the 12 or whatever you think the ball is going to be, and thus the player just shrugs their shoulders and sends the next thing. Whatever.
Well, that's, as you said, a very Slippy specific problem. I would not be surprised if Bonds doesn't come back when Slippy hits LL at some point.
Because the other side
will be like, oh yeah, this card is still busted even if it doesn't have Go again.
Yeah, because the other side of this is because when Slippy plays Bonds of Agony as the first card, and they've kept their hand, you basically it's a bluffing challenge, and even if there's nothing that you can do information wise for the most part to find out if they have it or they don't, or sometimes it's just on board. And they have it, and so you have to slam a bunch of cards in front of it, or just suffer the consequences.
You don't have to. You can just take it.
You can just suffer the consequences.
You can just accept the consequences. The only difference is like the illusion of choice. If somebody slams down a Dominated Crippling Crush and you're looking at your hand, you go, well, that's happening one way or the other. When Bonds comes down, especially when they have it on board, but even if they don't, but they have the full hand, you should just be thinking, well, this is going to happen one way or the other. I think it's literally the illusion of choice that causes the problem for folks.
Sure. Okay. I understand what you're saying. And you're right. That's it.
Yeah, that's rare.
Honestly. But I think one of the things they also address in here is that in tracked games, Slippy's win rate was sitting just below the problematic threshold. And I was like, cute. I didn't ever think it was really that high.
Oh, so again, you have to remember it's high because it doesn't have the highest representation. It's obviously been climbing over time, but a lot of those early Slippy performances were on the backs of a much smaller representation in the pool with a pretty high conversion. And so I would not be surprised if Slippy had either the best or close to the best win rate, just like overall in the meta, because the players that started with it were going to be very good with it. The players just kind of picking it up. It was a good meta, good time to do it. I also appreciate the fact that it was just below. Some would argue that he was trying to just slip through the cracks on getting adjusted, but
see, we both found the pun. Great. Moving on. So Golden Tipple, red and yellow. This is one where I think they are trying to thread a pretty unique needle. So I'm going to go ahead and read portions of this verbatim because I think that they're very important to the discussion. This is from Brian Gottlieb. In my 30 years of TCGs, I struggle to find an analog for the Gravy Bones experience, which I have one. When we are analyzing whether a deck is warping balance or performing at statistically unacceptable rates, we are necessarily driven by data. Makes sense. If win rates tell us a deck is too strong, we've got to respect the evidence. But what happens when almost everyone is positive a deck is too good, but the data tells a completely different story? Well, that's Gravy Bones. A deck with an entirely pedestrian win rate that many folks believe is the best deck in format and perhaps one of the most powerful Flesh and Blood decks we have ever seen, and frankly, I have to agree with them. Okay, so we're going to stop there. I tend to agree with that take as well. I had a conversation today with good friend Rich, who is a gravy enjoyer, and I mean that broadly. The man loves gravy in all forms. But one of the things were discussing is, analogous decks. And there is one in this case. And it comes in the form of what would have been fully powered modern Jund in Magic. A grindy deck that the best players played, that presented a difficult experience, didn't have necessarily the best win rates in the world, but was often seen at the top of tournaments because some of the best players would always pilot them. That and Birthing Pod at the time were the two things. And much like Gravy Bones, the deck had cards cut out of it multiple times, this is going to be a continued pruning. We'll move on from there. We'll move on to the next.
I just want to say there is another analogy.
Okay.
It's just not in a trading card game, but it is still a card game. When I was thinking about like where Gravy Bones sits, to me it reminds me a lot of Patron Warrior. If you played Hearthstone,
okay,
you know, in that early era, because it was. If you had asked any of the pro players at the time, it was unequivocally the best deck. But it also had like a less than 50% win rate when you looked at it as a whole.
Right.
But in a good player's hands, like, it was unequivocally the best deck.
Right.
So that's where I've been seeing Gravy as well, right? Because when you see it in the hands of the people that just know how to play the game, know what they're doing with the deck, know exactly, how the engine is, the right decisions to make at what time, etc. It just looks like it's an unbeatable thing. But then like you can play it at your local armory and you're like, I don't know why this deck is so bad. Like I just didn't have any problems with it just now. It's a weird experience.
Yeah, Patron Warrior was the boogeyman for things like Secret Paladin, if I remember right. Because it'd be like, I can do all my things, and they'd be like, okay. 700 armor. I don't give a shit. And then you died.
Well, or they just popped off the combo,
or they popped off the combo.
Get in here over and over and over again.
Most of the time in that matchup, they never popped off the combo because they knew they could just sit behind a wall, and eventually you're just going to die to never having cards. Like the deck, Secret Paladin was not fast enough in most draws to make Patron Warrior sweat. But yeah, I do remember playing like Zulok and then hearing that emote like 75 times. Not pleasant.
Yeah.
Oh well. We continue on. Thus far, so much of Gravy Bones' power has been tied up in the fact that he has access to an almost indefatigable amount of gold. Gravy Bones plays solid turns with all manner of hand sizes and configurations, but those legitimately broken turns, they always involve cracking 3 to 4 gold and shaping a hand to be an opponent's worst nightmare. Agreed, I've seen this. Gravy Bones needs to start working harder for his access to such bountiful treasure. The starting point here will be a ban of golden tipple in both red and yellow that may not be the end for Gravy Bones adjustments. A huge benefit of the Living Legend point changes, we've talked about this, is the time granted to us in order to shape a new hero into a balanced and successful participant in Classic Constructed. Perhaps Saltwater Swell in all colors also eventually proves to be too much. It is. It's fucking Dark Rituals. You play 9 of them.
It's Dark Ritual that attacks.
Right.
It's Dark Ritual stapled to a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
Remember Lightning Helix? Imagine that, but with Dark Ritual instead of Healing Self. That's what it is.
Jesus. Maybe the metagame evolves in such a way where Gravy isn't good at all anymore. That's unlikely. And Golden Tipple ultimately comes back to the deck. We are open to all possibilities and are happy to have the time to explore this go around. Okay. So, one, I know that line bugs people. Maybe the metagame evolves in such a way where Gravy isn't good at all anymore. But you need to understand that is facetious speech, and you get to tell because the next line is literally, we're open to all possibilities. Is that a possibility? Sure. Is it a possibility that my balls are going to stick to my chair and tear my scrotum when I stand up, even though I'm wearing pants? Also possible. Likely? Nope. So possible does not equal likely. Maybe doesn't mean is. These are very key things, and if you've ever had a conversation with Brian, you understand that this type of language is very Wayne's World. Yeah, and maybe monkeys will fly out of my butt. Right? Brian knows, and I will stand by this until Brian himself tells me I'm an idiot, which is very possible. But this is facetious speech, as in maybe this, maybe that. We don't know. We're exploring all avenues. To kind of just to hammer home the point that this was the reason that they built the Living Legend system the way it is built now, was so they can make these types of changes to create a balanced hero and a balanced play experience with those heroes. I think that's important to understand. The rest of this entire thing talks about Marlin. Mainly because Marlin plays 9 golden tipples. Deck's not really good. And it definitely needs golden tipple to operate. So it just became worse. But they're talking about significant support for Marlin arriving in sets after. Ergo, there we are. Also, they did call us out for saying that 3 of a Kind needs to be emergency banned when Marlin came out. Yeah, we're idiots. But also, they do remark on the latent potential of Marlin's kit. Like, yes, it has the potential to be fucking scary. Just, we're not there yet.
Yeah.
Any other conversation on that?
No, I feel like we're actually just kind of seeing the tip of the iceberg of the problem. I don't know if it's more conversation. This is just kind of like me thinking about the future. I think that...
You do that?
Yeah, sometimes. It's the only thing that keeps me wanting to see the future. To see if I'm right, you know? Anyway. With gold in particular, and I know that there are other heroes that have worked with silver and copper, obviously, as well. But with gold in particular, there is this really interesting dynamic where they've now created a number of heroes where gold is just an intrinsic part of their kit between heavy and now high seas. And I can't imagine that that's going to go away. I think that there will be more heroes that work with it. I think that it is a fun and flavorful mechanic. I do, however, think that there likely needs to be more emphasis put on the other denominations, because what makes the gold one so scary is that you have certain heroes that want the gold for a payoff, but, you know, Brian said in the past, and I jokingly say it every now and then when people talk about Olympia, sometimes I think people forget that gold itself is the payoff as well, right? You can spend a blue, potentially go up a resource, cycle a card that wasn't necessary. And so when they talk about like how Gravy can craft a hand after, you know, amassing 3 or 4 gold, but then also has the payoffs, and that's the only difference, right? Like the reason Olympia is looked at kind of with disdain is because you can do all that stuff, but then you're still playing just generic warrior at that point. There's no gold payoff, but Gravy has those payoffs. You know, Marlin has some of that potential payoffs, and there's other heroes that also have those payoffs, Kasai. And so I think just in the future, as we get more of this mechanic, I think that there's going to be a dance just kind of done around gold in general. I think that that's what we're kind of seeing here with this, you know, golden tipple issue, Gravy issue, whatever you want to call it. It's just that the gold isn't just there for the payoff. The gold is also its own payoff. And so when good players play the game and they recognize that, that's where it really becomes a problem. So,
yeah, that makes sense. Moving on. Next was Plume of Evergrowth. This is pretty simple. Light Up the Leaves exists. So Plume had to go. Because getting to just put that back on top for 6 more arcane, that's not okay. I mean, I hated Plume already for grabbing like rampant growth lives and shit like that to continue that slaughter. Surge and Aethertide is not my friend. So yeah, this being removed totally makes sense.
Magic's not really can't hurt you, but yeah, it makes sense. I think many folks were already kind of saying, hey, there's a good chance this might get banned, whether it's needed or not. They might just take the precautionary step. So I think, again, this is one of those, honestly, I think all of these fall into the category of, you know, I get it, right? Mm-hmm. When I looked at the extensive list, even for the one that's kind of preemptive before Super Slam, I look at what the card does and I say, I get it.
I get it.
You know, I get it. So I'm just hoping, you know, one of the things that they had said before they moved to the new Living Legend point system was that they wanted to potentially be more proactive. I think this is the first example of that. So I would also not be surprised if by the time the next BNR rolls around, we get even more changes, right? They might roll back the tipple and switch to swell. They might change, you know, half tipple, half swell combo. They might work some other stuff out. Similarly, they might change things around. Maybe Plume comes back. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I think that they're just going to be more involved. And so overall, when I looked at this list, I was like, I would have been fine with no changes, but also I look at all of this and I go, okay, yeah, I'm fine with this too. I get it.
Let's talk about the one that is like the head scratcher, but we get it. And that's Talk a Big Game. So for those of you at home that don't know what this card does, no one faults you. It's a 0 cost Brute Guardian action, so you can already see the problem. Blue pitch, block 3, choose a number. The next time you deal damage that much or deal that much or more damage, attack damage, to a hero this turn, create that many might tokens. Has go again. What that is telling me is dominate for big number is actually a real thing. Because that's why you ban that. The blurb for this is pretty simple and straightforward. At this juncture, we have taken on the feedback that if development believes there is a dangerous deck with potential to operate outside of acceptable parameters, our players prefer we address that deck in advance of its release. Sentiment broadly seemed to feel that we waited too long to ban Zephyr Needle. True. Even though a sanctioned classic constructed game was never played with Needle Ira. Here we are trying to act with ample notice. Now, for a lot of people, you'd read that and go, oh, yeah, that doesn't... Why are people complaining about that? It's because they spent a bunch of time testing it. And ahead of a large-scale tournament. Thinking, oh, they let... You know, one slip past the goalie here. Let's get it done. Oops. So they're just trying to be in front of it now. I do like the last blurb, which is with the release of Super Slam, Talk a Big Game would allow a couple of loquacious heroes, I love that word, to run their mouth off a bit too much. In this case, we've chosen preemptive action. I just love the word loquacious, and I just wanted to say it in the podcast. That's all. Simple enough. Anything for that, Darick, before I move on?
No, I think you summed it up very nicely, loquacious Logan.
Yeah, that's probably part of the reason I love the alliteration with my name.
Yeah.
Unbanning Germinate. This is...
I hate it.
I know you hate it. I actually enjoy this. Basically, they acknowledge that they were too heavy-handed with Florian, is what it turns into. And they're right. They took Florian from King of the Hill for win rate and heavily played deck to an absolute nothing. And yeah, oops. So give back part of the kit that enables like them to have bigger burst turns to try to keep up with some of these other decks. And also have a better end game, which is part of the problem with Florian a lot of the time, since the ability to play stack Florian is gone. Blitz, Talk a Big Game got banned for the same reasons as it did in CC. And then Living Legend had a change. They unrestricted Deadwood Dirge. I don't know that I love this. Now, they do kind of give themselves an out here because they acknowledge that they put it in the Viserai Armory deck. So that's kind of awkward. And that's part of their rationale here.
The Living Legend specific Armory deck.
Yes, the Viserai Armory deck. So yeah, they're bringing it back. I don't really know if I love that.
It'll be fine.
Maybe, probably, honestly. But we'll have to see if Viserai pops back up a bit. So we'll see. So we don't have another BNR until November 3rd. Is our next one scheduled?
There are virtual seats I have. Viserai. I know because he's purple. That's weird. Well, partially because he's purple. That is my favorite color. But so I say Viserai. Really, I was just thinking about a bunch of the heroes that had hit Living Legend that we had not had, reprints for yet, right? So obviously, we've seen the teases about, potentially Icelander and potentially Aurora. Anytime this conversation comes up, of course, I always cry that, Chain is nowhere to be found. But I was thinking to myself, if Viserai were to ever come back, what would that look like? And I think it would be really cool if they did something almost like a mini retcon, or just like, maybe not a retcon, but just like an expose on his background a bit more. And I would love to see him come back as a Draconic Runeblade, because his naming convention fits with the Phi Dromai Viserai thing, and that would be like a fun. Yeah, but I would like to see that, I think.
My tinfoil hat for Viserai is that's actually Kasai's father. So that's my tinfoil hat.
Yeah. She just didn't get any of the magic, so instead of making rune chains, she makes money.
This Sutcliffe is the one that did everything, that put the Arknight Shard in Viserai to create Viserai. He created it out of a warrior.
I like this idea of like her walking around with coins, right? And then she's just drawing the rune chant symbol on there, hoping it does something, but it never does, and that's why she's so obsessed with gold.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I do think, whether it's her, or I still feel like Olympia should be the hero, somebody needs a Gil Toss. I stand by that. We need a Gil Toss in this game.
I do love Gil Toss as a thought. Next unpleasant piece of business. A bunch of the Super Slam cards were leaked. What it looks like, and judging by responses, is, I'm just going to read what James said, because it's fantastic. This is from James White. I'm really sad to see the disappointment of the content creators who have had their efforts for Super Slam preview season rug pulled by some fuckwit who stole product that was in transit through the supply chain. We tried really hard to make preview season something to celebrate together with the beautiful content creator community, because we really appreciate what you do. I know it doesn't make up for the disappointment, but many fans will still see the Super Slam previews for the first time via your reveals. I'm looking forward to seeing what y'all come up with too. A+ James, thank you for saying fuckwit in the most appropriate term possible. And this is shitty. No two ways. For a lot of reasons. One of them being that there are content creators who are putting hours and hours into their spoiler reveals, only to have something like this happen, and then you feel like you just wasted your time. And that's awful. Secondarily, you have a lot of people who bought tickets to go to Montreal to experience to be there for the experience of seeing these cards for the first time, because spoiler season doesn't reveal the whole set. And so these are people that are going out and going there so they can be part of the room where these are getting cracked for the first time. And quite honestly, I've been there for a couple of these, and it's awesome. It's a ton of fun. But those people also had the rug pulled out from under them. And then I saw people in these spheres of human beings that I don't like to acknowledge their existence on Earth, that earned some liberal use of the block button, arguing that it was a good thing that these leaked because it would lead to sales increases of Super Slam. And I'm like, motherfucker, you don't think this set was basically sold out already?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I want to do like a mini dive on some of the like super shitty takes, not because I want to lambast anyone.
I want you to go dunking. Let's go.
No, here's the thing. I was thinking about it today, and there was a part of me that really wanted to, but I actually feel like it's time to put the semi-professional / dad hat on and use this as a teachable moment, okay? Because I've seen a lot of like really bad takes that I think people don't think are bad. And so I would like to explain the reasoning and why certain thoughts should not go in the direction I've seen. So this is a great example, right? First, assuming that the leaks are going to improve sales is making the assumption, one, that the set was not essentially already going to sell out. Historically, the last 3 sets have had no problem with selling out. In fact, there has been quite a lot of discourse about how there is a problem with getting enough product to people. So I don't think that is, one, a fair argument in that context. But even if, hypothetically, these did not leak and it was not sold out, the information about what's in the set would still hit the public on the street date. So
Correct.
Anything that was not yet sold out would then incur the sales, right? Like this is something that was going to be known at some point. And that's the really important piece that I want to emphasize here, because it's going to come up with a lot of these takes that I want to address. But ultimately, this is information that was going to be public one way or another. It is not that it's public that makes it shitty. It's the timing that makes it shitty. That is what ruins it. So another take that I saw on Reddit, granted it's Reddit, but somebody said, in response to the James thing, bro is making a mountain out of a molehill. What's important is that the game is fun. I don't necessarily disagree that the game should be fun, but the reason that it is a mountain and not a molehill is because people have fun with this game in different ways. And as Logan rightfully pointed out, for some people, it is getting that fresh, whimsical experience of opening something and not knowing what it's in there, right? Like you want that period of discovery. And it's fine if that's not for you, but it doesn't mean it's not for other people, right? I know that there's going to be a bunch of pro players that are happy that they got the information early so they can start brewing for the next big event, whatever. But there's an awful lot of people, as Logan pointed out, that also just want to go to the world premiere. Or I know people at a local level that just want to go to a pre-release unspoiled. They purposefully don't follow stuff because they still want the pre-release to be fun in the same fashion. So when this stuff happens ahead of schedule, that's what you're impacting, right? Again, we all know that the contents of the set will be public at some point. It's a matter of, is it public now and thus ruining the potential like reveal experience for players? Now, I saw a lot of people complaining about like, the content creators shouldn't care for a number of reasons, right? I've seen everything from, because of the immediate posts on the Discord that nobody was going to go watch their videos anyway, or that people would just speed through the videos to see what the reveal is. And yes, that absolutely does happen. I've seen people say that, the content creators don't need any help or whatever, which is just funny if you think that people make like any reasonable amount of money from content creation.
I can tell you they don't.
But that's a whole nother thing. There's all these things that I saw ultimately that was trying to dismiss the way that content creators feel. But again, what you're forgetting is that the set would still be known. at some point. The reveal thing is giving content creators something to craft around, right? It might be a storytelling opportunity. It might be a cosplay opportunity, right? If you're somebody like Rachel, if you're somebody that wants to, you know, build a costume that is in line with the card that you want to reveal, right? It might be somebody like Ethan who wants to make this, you know, Lego video and do all of this stuff, and like, not giving anything away, but like the context of the way that Logan and I were planning on doing our reveal, it doesn't work if the card is already known. Like, part of not knowing it is the gag, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not even just like, oh, well, you get to do your reveal anyway. A lot of content creators use the not knowing of the audience to build up to, okay, what is going to be the card? What is going to be the reveal? You can see it in some of the 3 floating videos, right? So again, it's not that the stuff was never going to be public information. It's that the timing ruins opportunities for players to have fun, ruins opportunities for content creators to do something creative, right? It's, again, yes, I know that there's a lot of people that are just going to wait till the thing pops up on the alert in the public Discord and go, okay, yep, new card revealed. They might not even go check out the video. But for the people making the video, they still want that enjoyment they get out of it, because I'm going to tell you right now, most of your Flesh and Blood content creators are probably breaking even, and I know some of them actually lose money on what they do. So they are doing it for the love of the game. Mm-hmm. And when you start to take even some of their opportunity to have love of the game away, it's just going to be a net negative for all involved. So there's that. I've also seen things like there was another take that I saw where it was like, hey, they're blaming it on distribution issues again. They need to suck it up and do better. This isn't like an LSS didn't print enough product or didn't get with the right distributors. This was stolen. Okay. First of all, I saw some folks asking, hey, why is this happening? You know, why did this happen to Fab? And I can tell you it happened with Star Wars Unlimited recently, as well, as somebody who makes content for that. Our spoiler season actually got sped up because for competitive integrity ahead of the Galactic Championship, they actually just made the decision to release everything because of the leaks, but it was because stuff was stolen there too. If you're, you know, somebody who only interacts with like one trading card game, I'll give you the short version. Since the pandemic, the trading card hobby space has just like exploded. A bunch of people had free time and free money, and they wanted to do something, so they got back into collecting. Pokemon is huge, right? So when you're hearing about these distribution issues, a lot of it's just because there are so many games that are popping off right now that there's literally not enough printers in the world to run at the speed of demand. Pokemon has, you know, famously been printing their own stuff for quite some time, but they hit such a demand that they started renting out the other printers as well. Some companies have allocation issues because they can't print enough. Some companies are shipping out product that does not have the QA quality of assurance, you know, if you will, that say LSS does, because they just know they don't get enough printing time. You know, again, talking about Star Wars, it's not uncommon to find misprints with them, but that's because they have just made the decision they would rather get product in people's hands.
This is, I mean, but that's a good point, because it's not just the small companies that have that problem. Magic has that problem. Magic,
Pokemon, like these are all huge companies that are having issues. You know, the Riot game Riftbound is going to be coming out in North America later this year. It will for sure sell out first wave, and it's not because they didn't anticipate demand. It's because there's literally only so much printing time available right now. So first of all, distribution issues are a real thing, but also just to say like, hey, it's them blaming that again and suck it up. This was stolen, right? It was likely, if I had to guess, it was probably somebody who just saw a TCG shipment, was hoping it was Pokemon or Magic, and then, oh, whoops, it's Fab. They don't care, so they just started selling it to offload it because they got something they weren't looking for. Again, that's pretty much what happened with Star Wars for their last set. So I don't know how you suck it up and do better when trucks, like somebody Fast and Furious this shit, right? It wasn't DVD players though. It was
probably Vin Diesel though.
Yeah, it was probably Vin Diesel, trying to pay back the IRS or something. But I keep seeing all of these takes, and it's, I think, just people not understanding what goes into something like this, where again, the entire point is the experience. And all of this stuff would be known eventually, whether it's the reprints that are out there, whether it's the cards that are out there, knowing what the Fabled is. Again, all of that would have been known eventually. Knowing now versus knowing later is not likely going to affect sales. It's not likely going to change a meta or do anything like that. What it will do, though, is absolutely ruin the windows of opportunity for certain types of experiences, whether it's for content creators, for first-time players, for marketing opportunities for the company, right? Because who knows, maybe they had cool trailers planned or whatever. All of that goes away, right? So if you're just, if you're listening to this and you are somebody who's on the fence about, like, I don't know why this is a bad thing, it's bad because all it does is detract from opportunities, and it's something that you can't get back. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Like, once it's out there, it's out there. So it sucks.
Yeah, I had originally slated on here to do our State of Flesh and Blood review that we tend to do kind of yearly, biannually, however you want to put it. But that was before we got a bunch of stuff leaked and a motherfucker of a BNR, so we'll probably just move that to a different episode, and we also have a bunch of listener questions, so, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess we should just do the listener questions.
But I do want to say that we do have new FAP merch because you fuckheads wanted it.
I mean, it's kind of cool.
So partnering with our friends at Gamer Goblin, there will be a link in the show notes to the collection. I'll also post in our Discord. Right now, just a typical standard flex fit baseball cap, really good quality. Beanie, because you people wanted beanies. Why do people wear those? And then the pirate playmat. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, with our mugs on it as drawn by Iswardi Tharianto. Thank you, Ejur. So yeah, those will be up there. I'll go ahead and make sure I get that link into our Discord, as well as it is in the show notes. I already put it in the show notes. So please go check him out. It is a friend of mine and also a Fab player that is running that shop, that is doing this all on his own right now. And I think that's really cool to kind of do that from the ground up and provide really good merchandise. He has it in hand, so he knows the quality. He wouldn't put it on the website if it wasn't the quality to put there. And this is somebody that, is also a gamer as well, and is just getting started. So that's kind of a big thing. We've also partnered before with Very Good Embroidery, which still love them. And they still have our shirts and stuff like that on their website as well. And yeah, so I really love partnering with people that are in the space, and also supporting local businesses and smaller businesses who are working to, start something up and do something cool. So please support them. They'll kick something back to us. I really don't give that much of a shit about things getting kicked back to us. But I just like to make sure that you guys have access to stuff if you want it. So there you go. Now you're ready for listener questions, because I don't get some of these, but sure.
Yeah, I guess so. I was just looking at the mat. The mat's really pretty. It
is really pretty. Oh yeah, you don't even own one.
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet. The first one's from Goofla Brain. If Fab did the Bloomborough thing, don't know what that means, where all the characters are animals, I do know what that means. Which animal is each hero? There are a lot of heroes. We're not going to go through all of them. But
I mean, we can just quickly name some of the obvious ones, right?
Like Briar is a squirrel?
Sure.
Squirrels are terrorists.
There. Yeah. Briar is a squirrel, I guess. I would have said a porcupine because she's thorny, but
squirrel.
We can go with squirrel because she's a little nutty. Marlin is obviously either a marlin or a shark, right? No if, ands, or buts about that. Zen is a tiger.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
There's probably some low-hanging fruit here.
Reiner's probably an elephant. You know, I take that back. Betsy's an elephant.
Betsy's an elephant.
Yeah.
I think that
Betsy's an elephant.
I think Reinar is like almost like a giant warthog.
Yeah. I could get behind that.
You would have Bravo's a bull. Just a bull.
Aurora is a cheetah.
Sure. I could see that.
Acilio is an electric eel.
Yeah, obviously. Kasai's a wolverine. Blades, you know, slashy. Kind of doesn't look like much, but will definitely fuck you up. Not Wolverine, the comic book character, but a literal Wolverine.
I don't know. I see her as more nomadic. Like a more nomadic predator, I guess.
Sure. Jarl's a woolly mammoth?
Yeah, I could see that.
Or is Oldham the woolly mammoth and Jarl is like...
Yeah, you know what? Oldham's the woolly mammoth, and I think Jarl's a polar bear.
Yeah, I'm about to say polar bear. But I think it goes the other way around. I think that Oldham's a polar bear and Jarl's the mammoth.
No, it's got to be Jarl because Jarl's like built around the mangle theme, and a polar bear is going to do the mangling for sure.
I was thinking size because I think Jarl's bigger than Oldham and more ancient.
No, he's not more ancient. No way.
I thought so.
No. Oldham puts the old in him, my brother.
Yeah, but in lore, like, Oldham served under Jarl.
Sure.
Right? What's Viscerai?
Roadkill.
Yeah, Chain's a skunk, so Viscerai's a possum?
Maybe. I think Viscerai might just be like an angry bee's nest.
Sure.
Like, just getting stung a bunch is just all the rune chants going off.
Yeah, okay. Olympia's a house cat because they're worthless.
Yeah, maybe. Victor's a horse.
Obviously, Victor's just a horse. That's the character.
Right.
Most I got. Moving on. Your favorite question from Josh Scott. What card do you think most deserves to be reprinted with new artwork and not because it should just be reprinted? I know you have an answer to this.
I do. I actually took notes. I was pulling them up. So I actually had a really hard time settling on just one.
I have a lot of them.
So I actually have like my choice and then 5 honorable mentions, weirdly enough. But the one that I settled on was Pursuit of Knowledge. I think that is a card artistically that can go a number of ways. And I think that anytime you have cards like that, where just by the naming convention alone, you've got a lot of room to work with, it's like ripe for cool reprints because you can stretch creatively what you want to do with it, right? So I landed on Pursuit of Knowledge. I was going to jokingly just say Pummel because that's obviously my favorite card, but we're actually getting alternate art Pummel again here soon, so you know. But yeah, I think Pursuit of Knowledge is where I landed, but my other ones that were on the list were Crazy Brew.
No, Crazy Brew stays.
I think that there's some fun stuff you could do with the art though. Down and Dirty.
Okay, I'm good with that one.
Yep, good playable card, but I should also preface this. I only went with generics for this because I think that we're still too young in the life cycle to do targeted reprints for class-specific stuff. I know that it's happened already, right? Like we just got the Codex reprint with different art, etc. But for this, I was trying to stick with generics, and it didn't have to be of certain rarities either. You'll see. But so I had Crazy Brew, Down and Dirty, Nourishing Emptiness.
I don't want new art. I just want it zoomed in.
I'm of two ways. I could take the zoomed in. I could even, just like when I gave the answer in our Discord about like I love OG Enlightened Strike and I just need that to be like a full art Marvel. I could even deal with like a full art treatment for Nourishing, but again, like from a naming convention, from a unique, cool card design, etc., that's one where I think you could do something pretty neat with the art there. And then I also had Scar for a Scar.
I had that one too, but it does have a different art already.
It does already have one, right? But it's not, I don't know, it's not such a big departure. Like that's one of those ones where again, with the naming, I think that we have a lot of room to work with some like artistic liberties. So sure. I like that one. And then the last one on my list when I was thinking about it was Snatch. I think that
the Snatch is number 1 on my list. Again, has a different art, but Snatch is number 1 on my list.
Yeah, so then Snatch was my runner-up. Like when I was going through, I landed on Pursuit of Knowledge because Pursuit of Knowledge is just a card that it's one of my pet cards. I routinely try to put it in decks where it doesn't belong, but I just really like it because I think it does something fun and unique in the game, right? So I dig it, and I think that you could get some cool art, but I also like Snatch a lot.
Yeah, Snatch is great. I love Snatch. I love the card. I almost fell into that trap. Not saying I don't, but yeah, I agree with almost all of those. Now, I didn't include Scar for a Scar because I mean, Scar for a Scar and Snatch both have alternate arts. So I was like, I don't know if I know include those. Same with Oasis Respite, which is another one that I thought would benefit, and Nimblism, which has an alternative art. But the ones that I called out like specifically, even though it has another artist, Snatch, and then Civic Steps, it's feet. I just don't. Yeah, doesn't do anything for me. And the one is like the other one is Winter's Grasp. It just doesn't do the art doesn't do it for me. And now that we have more like specific ice characters, we can definitely work something in a little bit differently than just like a cliff and a guy being held there by ice.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's kind of where I was. That's why I still included Scar for a Scar. I know it has alternate art, but it's not like that much of a departure. You know what I mean?
Right. And I understand that. And it's not to say that the art in any of these is bad or anything else. It's just I think that we have like more room now. Like I could say the same thing for the original Ravenous Rabble, right? I'm not a huge fan of that art, but we do have an insanely good one in a promo that Aswarty did.
Right.
But it's not widely available, right? So where do you put that? But yeah, I think that we have a pretty strong list there of things that we want to see changed because it would just be cool. Next one is from Vintox. It seems the average hero is doing more damage per turn. Yeah, no shit. Do you think we have power crept? Or is the game still balanced around 12 to 13 value? Follow up, do you think we have entered Fab 3.0 because between the bans and powerful heroes? I think that you could consider that because design philosophy and philosophy around bans seem to have shifted a bit. That in addition to the game is not balanced around 12 to 13 value per hand of 4 cards anymore. It's based around much more than that. But in games, power creep is usually inevitable, especially non-rotating games. So you end up having more cards keep entering the pool. Power levels are going to necessarily go up. It is what it is. So I mean, calling it Fab 3.0, sure. I don't like labels, really don't care. But I could see an argument that design philosophy and philosophy around curation has shifted enough that you could say we've entered a different age, so to speak.
I think that I think that we're definitely at a spot where if we were forced to put a numerical value on it, then yes, the value is above what I would think of as like 12 or 13. I think that, again, though, we're at a bit of a weird spot because it's not always just about the numerics. It's also about either disruption or like, is an ally still on the board, which is like pseudo disruption because my opponent either has to deal with it or ignore it or whatever. Whatever the case may be, it does certainly feel like the base power level has crept up. Now, I don't know if I would say Fab 3.0, but I would say at a minimum we're at 2.5. But I can see a strong argument for 3, and it's not because of, in my opinion anyway, design philosophy or just power level of cards. The reason I think so is because when I think back to what coincided with the announcement of like going to Flesh and Blood 2.0, for me it was more so the way that the game was being made accessible to players. So that was at a time when they were stopping first edition printings and when they started to go away from supplemental sets, and they were doing those things. And now we've hit this new era of sorts where, those things are still in place, but now we have armory decks that are supplementing when sets come out or when heroes need support. And we're getting the first strike decks, and we just got Smash Palace and Guardian Mastery Pack. And when you look at just the way the game is now made accessible to players, it's again different from what Fab 2.0 originally was at that time. So yes, like there's the power level discussion, but for me, Fab 2.0 goes hand in hand with that change in how they were delivering the game to players at that time. And I definitely think we're, like I said, at least at a 2.5, if not a 3.0, based on the way that things are offered to us now.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that makes a lot of sense. Next one's from Sephiroth. When do you realistically think we will get Icelander 2.0 set to 2026? I think it is Aurora 2.0, Icelander 2.0, and Adult Terra.
I'm going to say Gen Con exclusive promo, so get ready to pay $200 if you can't go.
Glad I go to Gen Con.
But also set to 2026.
Yeah, it makes more sense. Next one's from Justin S. With football season starting, what position would each hero play? Not going to go down the list of heroes, but if I was going to pick a quarterback, give me Pleiades with Victor as my backup.
I ain't putting Victor in at quarterback. Are you kidding me?
No, that's why he's the backup. He has to learn humility. I would take... my whiteouts are all lightning. I'm just taking Aurora, Briar.
So I don't necessarily disagree with you on the need for speed, but I was going to put Aurora and Acilio in at wideout, but I wanted to put Briar in at cornerback because she's both fast and can be defensively minded.
I want Briar in the slot. I want Briar to be my X receiver. Basically, I want Briar to be a possession receiver with the ability to be a deep threat, so a nice seam route runner. I'm putting Aurora in the slot. That shit's happening immediately. And then over here, Ocilio, you run one route. You run a 9. That's all you do. I would still put...
So talking like receivers, though, I would still put like a dash or a dash IO out there. To me, Briar is a defensive back, whether it's corner or safety, because she's still just as fast, but she can hit hard when needed.
Sure.
Right? Like, I want her to play my Sean Taylor spot. That's what I want.
Oh, R.I.P. Sean Taylor. But, I get that, but I really want a possession receiver. And I think Briar just really is sure-handed, runs that hard route, can also just beat a safety, beat a corner and a safety. And also isn't scared of a linebacker. Just come at me, bro. I think if we're running 11 personnel, who's my tight end? My linemen are just across the board. It's Guardians. It's Terra. It's Jarl. It's Bravo Showstopper. Right. Specifically,
star of the show, I think, would make a great tight end.
That kind of where I'm at is that he's our tight end.
Yeah.
And then who are the other Guardians? Because I don't want Victor on my offensive line. I don't fucking trust that clown. I'm going to put
Yoji.
Lyeth on the defensive line.
Yoji.
Yoji, yes. He's not good at
He's
it.
center.
Yeah, he's going to be center because I'm not putting him at right tackle. We obviously know he can't stop an Arachne.
On the other side, for defensive tackles,
Lyeth is one.
Lyeth is one, and I think Riptide is one.
Yeah, I think we put both those on there. For edge rushers, I'm just putting Arachne and Arachne.
Well, so the reason I wanted Riptide there is because then I want to run a trap play.
Gotcha. You're a dumb. Well, trap plays are run on offense, but
well, yeah. I mean, there's the halfback traps, but then you can also run like defensive line traps as well.
You can run stunts, but
Right.
God, I almost want. I think I want Uzuri to be my center field free safety. Basically, because she can either come down and play in the box or play coverage. She just versatile.
I think that makes sense. I think your linebackers are probably Warriors.
Probably, I want I guess I want Reinar as an edge rusher.
Oh,
I
yeah,
want some
defensive
big
end for sure.
fucking brute.
Yeah, I think Reiner and KO are just your two defensive ends. End of story. And KO is specifically, he's gonna fit that like JPP post fireworks role.
I knew it was coming.
Since you didn't put them on offense, then I think that the combinations of like Dash and Syndra and the ninjas are probably your corners then.
I think ninjas as corners make sense. I think Bolton might be our running back.
Oh yeah, running back would be kind of I think a hard one to peg. It could be Bolton or like an Olympia.
Olympia might be fine.
I think Olympia is probably fine.
I mean,
certainly got the armor to take the punishment, right? Going.
I think that's our goal line running back is Olympia. Our backfield receiving threat that is also, can run off tackle is probably Bolton.
You know who I think I actually want as my quarterback? And I know that they are not meta relevant and have never been, but I think it's hard to argue against Tekla being the quarterback.
I think it's pretty easy to argue against Tekla. Like, Tekla is maybe a head coach, but nah. Max the Hype Nitro would be a better quarterback.
Yeah, he's a scrambler.
Yeah. Scrappy. Gym rat. Real go-getter.
So it's funny, you said scrappy. That's why I was thinking of Teklo as the QB, because he's smart and scrappy.
You're terrible. Next one's from Vintox. Locally, our armory scene has dropped off a little with people selling out of the game, claiming it has gotten too expensive, but the game is expanding as a whole. Do you think the game is too expensive? Do you think we will see corrections in the near future? Do you think it's time for more whiteboard staple reprints to help onboard new players? History Pack 1 was huge for a lot of our entry to the game. Okay. So, is the game too expensive? Yeah, it probably is. But this isn't about corrections. This is about the ability to print enough product.
Right.
It is not about, well, we can make whiteboarded staples. They would probably love to. But until they can find a printer that can do the fucking thing, it doesn't matter. You can intend to make all you want to, but if you can't get that in production, as on a production schedule, it doesn't matter. So, and that's where we're at.
Yeah. Again, just kind of, if you take a moment and you really just think about the spot the LSS is in, and when you take into account what I was talking about earlier globally with just TCGs in general, in a perfect world where you have access to printers and you can do whatever you need to meet player demand, yes, just printing more, printing whiteboarded stuff, I think would be very beneficial. Yes, I think secondary market, especially, the game is too expensive for new players, and that's in large part just because there's not enough product to go along with the number of players who want to play the game because the game is growing. So, all of that being said, with the way that the current state of both the world and the game are, however, if you're LSS and you're trying to prioritize what you want to send to a printer, even though it sucks and you wish you could do something else, the reality is continuing to make new and exciting sets is likely still the better choice than doing like a history pack version 2. And the reason is because at the end of the day, if they're still growing, and yes, there are certainly people that are selling out, but LSS knows their numbers, and we're also just kind of seeing it reflected with events and whatever. They're still getting more players than they're losing currently. They would love to retain the old ones. They would love to do all those things. But if your choice is stop growth to just try to target retention, or continue growing and continue expanding the cards available to players so that if players come back, right, maybe they step away and they come back, you know, there will be something else that entices them. I think that the answer becomes kind of obvious, right? You keep going with the new stuff because at the end of the day, like, people are still excited for it, whether they're entrenched or new. Whereas if you print like a history pack, you have to kind of just know that your new players will buy that enough because your entrenched players will not, right? Unless they're trying to flip it or whatever, which is a whole different story. But there's just not enough printers, and there's not enough time. So I would love to see that stuff. I think that all of that is, you know, warranted. I think it's good ideas, and I think that it's stuff that LSS is very aware of. But again, knowing what they know and being in the position they're in, it also makes sense that they haven't yet.
Yep, it's exactly that. Next one's from Sleep Coma. When do you think we'll see a roadmap for the game and what the next year is bringing? Are we waiting all the way until November in Philly, or could we get a nice treat at Super Slam World Premiere? I think it's November for most of it.
Yeah.
I think you'll get some snippets in Montreal, like maybe the next set release, and the, you know, more specifics in Yokohama, something along those lines. But the roadmap will probably be November, would be my guess. But I don't work at LSS. I'm not a doctor. This is not medical advice or legal advice or any advice, really. But if you do need help, Charmer does know a lot about bird law.
Caw.
Moving on. From Polish Guy Rich, let's say that Tipple was a mistake and new cards made a banning needed. The next logical step is going from 5 to 9 swell. From 5 to 9 swell, which, Jesus Christ, which is Dark Ritual without the gold. So going from 5 copies of swell to 9 copies of swell. It's better than that because it's Dark Ritual without the gold, but with an attack.
Sounds swell.
I couldn't say it better myself. With the entire banning article considered, Gravy can add 4 to 6 block value. Sure. As well, and easily make aggro a little easier to handle. True. Plus, I'd argue that a late gold dig is usually desperate for a boat or a Vastier. Not always. It's usually, I noticed that most of the time, late gold digs were to find more tipples and swells to ramp resources as hard as you can to then deploy X number of idiots.
Yeah, usually what I've seen, now granted, I don't have nearly, you know, the games on Gravy as, you know, Rich or some of the other folks, but usually what I see is that it's people digging for enough resources so that they can play what they think will be enough allies so that your opponent can't answer them all, essentially, right? Like, you want to get yourself into a situation where you can present some damage while also playing 2 or more allies so that if they answer one on their turn, now you're just kind of like ahead for the rest of the game until they can get to a turn where they can answer, you know, more than one ally or kind of play catch up, right? So if you get to that point where you're always going to end with an ally on the board, then you're just kind of plus.
Or you're going for that like weird little soft lock with Chum plus Sawbones, right? So why shouldn't I think that pros will still win and Gravy goes into an area of being banned into oblivion? I don't think that there is any intention of banning Gravy into oblivion. I still think that good players will win with the deck. However, I think that some decks aren't just 1,000% cold to gravy that used to be. Now, that could prove to just be wrong. So Swell is a stupid fucking card. And that this could be a Hogak situation, which if anybody remembers or knows, Hogak was a deck in Modern Magic that was completely oppressive and destroying the meta game. So they decided to ban a card out of Hogak. So they did. And it turns out that the deck was built inefficiently because people misidentified this card being important, and now it got to achieve its final form, which made it a much better deck. Oops.
It's addition through subtraction.
Yeah, and so it could be, I don't think it is, but it could be a situation where, yep, Swell just, we should have been playing 9 of these and not 9 Tipples. Oh, well. I don't think that's the case since Tipple allowed you free hook activations without worrying about, losing the hook, where Swell doesn't do that. I think that there are taking the gold down, so people don't have 4, 5, 6, 7 gold on board that they can cycle through in one shot, is also important. But quite honestly, I don't think Graveyard will get banned into Oblivion. I think they'll make tweaks on the deck until it is slightly above the mean. And good players are still going to take it because it's the deck with the highest individual agency possible. That's it.
Yeah, I was going to say, ultimately, where I land on this about, should I still expect the pros will still win? Well, they're the pros. They're the pros for a reason. I just kind of always expect them to win. And so really it's just a question of, did this do enough to make the pros not want to play Gravy?
Right.
Right? That's really the question, because I just kind of assume that, it's not like they win every event, right? But there's always a good chance that one of those known players will pull down an event. And so if they are on a deck, you should be aware of that deck. And yeah, to me, was this enough to make them say, maybe I consider playing something else?
Sure.
And unfortunately, I don't know that that's the case, but
I don't think it's the case of the tippy top, but I think for some others it might be true. Let's thank some patrons and get out of here. I'm fucking tired. First up, we have our associate producers. We have Aladoris. We have Andy, our longest running associate producer. He just keeps wanting that to be a thing. Anthony, Sindra, Heiner, Ejor, Jacob, Micaiah, Sleep Coma, and Sofsky are executive producers on up. Blaze Storm, Diana the Greek Cosplayer, John, Sergeant Eastbjorn, and then our possum supporters, we have the Delusion Data Analyst is our only current possum supporter of all people. And then we have our Chargers Chamber of Charcoal participants, Brandon, Matt, Michael, Vintox, and Zaris. I think that Zaris is in, and Vintox is going to be in soon as far as ability to come on. And then our ceiling fan, Rich. Thank you very much for all your support, everybody. Anybody that's in the Possum supporter and on up, once I have the new playmats with some new art for the patrons, I'll get those shipped out to you. I will also grandfather in people that were in that tier that served their time, so to speak, but have reduced their tiers or anything else. I'll make sure people get taken care of. If you want to join our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. Link is in the show notes. Pick a paid tier. You can get into FAP After Darks. We'll probably try to do one sometime in the next week or so, but don't quote me on that. Yeah. If you want to get a hold of the show, you can send us an email at fleshandpod@gmail.com. You can find us on BlueSky. Just search Flesh and Pod. Biggest thing is just join our Discord. It's free. You just come in, hang out, listen to us bitch, or whatever else we do in there. Talk about Charmer being in agony over Bonds of Agony getting banned. or go in his dad joke channel. It's terrible. Darick, where can they find you?
You can find me in the Discord, in the Chuckles with Charmer channel, because it's the best channel there. The only one that even comes close is the Pickle Posse.
All the channels I just create for people. Like, Pickle Posse was created for Elaine. Chuckles with Charmer was created for you.
Are you trying to tell me that Kierkegaard Corner wasn't created for me?
No, that was created for me.
Oh, well.
Yeah, that existed before you.
Feels like it was for me.
It was bait to get you to agree to do this.
Fair enough.
Yeah, well, that's our show for this week. Thank you everybody for listening this far. It's the fucking trip that we'll be back here for 197. Also be on the lookout for several announcements that'll be coming in quick succession. But yeah, announcing the announcement is the most TCG thing you can do. So I'm just making sure that we stay on brand. Makes sense, right?
You know, I should have announced that you have an announcement, and then your announcement should have been announcing the announcement.
That's true. We did miss a chance for announcement inception. Yeah. Oh, well. We'll try again later. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and have yourself a great week. Bye.